So recently, there's been this really awesome webtoon that I've been reading, and I felt like I just had to talk about it. This series is everything I look for in a good series. The series' name is I'm the Queen in This Life. This webcomic is a series where the main character goes back in time after being killed to get revenge on the people who wronged her. And might I say, this comic does a really good job at setting up the whole story and making every single chapter super entertaining. Before jumping into this, however, if you find yourself liking the video by the end, leave a like, it helps out a lot, and maybe subscribe as well. The goal right now is to hit 1,000 subs, and we are so close, so it would be amazing if you could help, but anyway, let's get back into this. So this series right off the bat lets you know that the main character's family is full of a bunch of pieces of human garbage. They all played a role in her betrayal and her death, and she is going to get this second chance to get revenge on all of them. After she goes back in time, we start to see more of how her family acts, and we can see that they truly are wastes of space. Minus one person, her younger sister Arabella. This little girl, like our protagonist Ariadne, gets bullied and left out of a bunch of things by her family. This brings her and Ariadne a lot closer to each other than the other family members. And when they grow close, we learn that she is a very sweet little girl who doesn't deserve the family that she was born into. Arabella and Ariadne's relationship is genuinely one of the most wholesome relationships I have seen in fiction. These two are like two peas in a pod. Ariadne supports her little sister in everything she wants to do and goes out of her way to help her achieve her dreams. But sadly, there's something that happens that puts an end to that. I won't tell you what happened for spoiler reasons, but what happened in the story genuinely fucked me up. I'm still recovering from it now, and it's been a few months now. Family affects a lot of things in people's lives, and if you are born into a shitty family, it can drive the course of your life forever. This series tells you that you can fight back and that you can escape the shitty family if you have one. This is a great message that a lot of people need to hear. The revenge plot is done so well in this webcomic. We see that despite Ariadne having a lot of knowledge, she doesn't always get everything she wants so easily. She still has to build up relationships and she still has to formulate plans. Plus, they do a really good job at making all of the characters she wants revenge against really unlikable. Which just makes it way more cathartic when they constantly get fucked over. And that has happened a few times now, but Ariadne is just getting started. She is going to do everything in her power to make these people suffer as much as she has, which is going to be awesome to witness. So far, the story is going exactly as Ariadne wants it to, with the exception of a few things. Her romance is one of those things. She is struggling between wanting revenge and wanting to be with the man she loves the most. This series does a really good job at showing us the struggle that nobles had to go through when they put their duty first over their love for somebody else. But the two leads of the story are fighting back against that notion, and we are seeing a really nice and wholesome bond form between them. However, Ariadne's former love from her past life who betrayed her is constantly getting in the way of that as well, which makes for a really good love triangle. In her previous life, this guy didn't really want anything to do with her, but Ariadne did everything for him. Now, in this life, Ariadne wants nothing to do with this guy, but he wants her really bad. It is actually a pretty fun dynamic to see this all switched up in her two lives. Seeing this all play out has been one of the most entertaining parts of the story so far. The two men keep getting jealous of each other, and Ariadne is pining after a man who is set to marry someone else. The story does such a good job at making the romance just as entertaining as the revenge plotline, and I am here for it. One of my favorite things this webcomic talks about is how you need to stand up for yourself sometimes. This is a message that a lot of people need to hear, including myself. It is so cool seeing these characters go from the one being pushed around to them finally standing up for themselves and handling business. Being able to push back against the people who are harming you, who think they know best, is how everybody should try to live their lives. And this series does a really good job at demonstrating this growth with its characters and making it realistic and epic. On that note, the series also does a really good job at showing its characters in despair. Like, this is a story about revenge and finding new love, but before she can get her revenge, she has to struggle. She will fail sometimes and that will hurt. The male lead, Alfonso, also has his fair share of issues and struggles that he has to go through. He ends up in despair as well. However, both him and Ariadne are strong and capable of overcoming their despair and doing what they need to do to succeed and be happy. Bro, the artwork in this webcomic is so fucking good. The character designs are on point. We get to see beautiful dresses worn by the main characters and some good looking suits for the male leads as well. Plus, the designs are just good in general. The backgrounds are insane as well. This whole comic series just looks incredible. It makes getting invested in this story so easy and makes you really want to keep reading. The absolute best thing about this series is the characters. The way all the characters are written makes the story so entertaining and makes you want to keep reading more and more. Ariadne is such an amazing protagonist. In her previous life, she was more of a pushover. She did whatever her family asked of her, and eventually even her husband, but in the end, she was betrayed by those very same people, so when she was given a second chance, she took it. And now she is a badass who doesn't take shit from anybody, which just makes her character so much more lovable. Next up is Alfonso. He's a pretty good male lead to the story. He is genuinely just a really good guy. He cares for Ariadne, but beyond that, he cares for his people. He just wants what is best for everybody. However, that doesn't always mean he's a pushover. When he wants something, he will do whatever it takes to get it. And we are seeing that in full swing with Ariadne. Isabella is Ariadne's other sister, and she's the main antagonist of her family. She is the one who killed her in a previous life, and she is the one Ariadne wants to suffer the most. They do such a good job at making Isabella unlikable, which makes her a really good antagonist. She isn't as smart as Ariadne though, so she often comes up short with her plans. She is genuinely just evil for evil's sake, and when she eventually gets stopped, it will be extremely satisfying to see. Caesar is Ariadne's former husband and the piece of shit who betrayed her. In this life, he is also an unlikable piece of shit, but for an entirely different reason. As I mentioned earlier in the video, Ariadne and Caesar's roles were reversed in this new life. In her former life, Ariadne was the one who wanted Caesar, but in this life it is the other way around. And what makes him a piece of shit is that he doesn't know how to take no for an answer. Ariadne has made it pretty fucking clear that she wants nothing to do with his dumbass, but he keeps going after her. He is genuinely so unlikable that every time you see him, you scream at your phone or wherever you're reading this at to tell him to fuck off. The rest of Ariadne's family is just as unlikable besides her little sister who I already brought up earlier. But her mother is a piece of human garbage. She launders money for not only herself, but for her piece of shit family and her son as well. She also abuses not only Ariadne, but her own fucking daughter in Arabella. There is absolutely no justification for her actions and she can rot in hell for all I care. Her brother is just as much of a piece of shit. He plays around with women and he is overall just really disgusting and creepy. He has no remorse for his actions and he is overall just a piece of shit. And lastly, we have the Cardinal, or her father. He is the most likable of the bunch, but that is only because he is the least hostile or evil out of the family members, not that he's actually a good person or anything. For the most part, unless it directly involves his or his family's reputation, he ignores everything that goes on in this house. He doesn't care about the blatant favoritism being shown by the mother or the bullying being done by the siblings. He couldn't care less about any of that. He is just as guilty as everyone else for fostering an environment where all of the evil shit we have seen happen throughout the series is allowed to happen. I'm the Queen in This Life is genuinely a really good revenge story. We get to see so much of what makes a good story come to life here. Honestly, if you made it this far into the video and you for some reason haven't read this, which is unlikely since you probably wouldn't have even clicked on the video in the first place, but if you haven't, then I do recommend that you give this a shot because it is genuinely such a good webcomic series that is so fun to read.
Imagine, if you will, sitting down to your morning coffee, turning on your home computer to read the day's newspaper. Well,